Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. In this lesson, we are going to learn all about functions. The word function simply refers to the kind of activity or action someone or something does. But in mathematics, it is like a machine that has an input and an output. So let's imagine that this is our machine and this is where you plug in the input. This is called X, or usually called the domain. And this is where you get the output, usually called the Y, and sometimes it's also called the range. So our domain is the input and range is the output. Now what happens inside this machine? Inside this machine, the math operation takes place. This is where you decide what to do to the input to get the output. Now let's look at an example where the function is 2x plus 1. So let me write 2x plus 1 over here. So what happens if your input is 1? So the machine is going to multiply this 1 by 2 and then add 1 to it. So 2 times 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3, and thus giving us 3. This is the output. So there is a way of writing this whole process. This is how we write it. We write f of x equals to 2x. Let's say for this example, it's 5, not 1 anymore. So this is the name of the function, f of x. Okay, this is our function. This is the name. And this is where we write the input. So this is where we write the input. In this case, the input was 1, so you could have written f of 1 for this example. And this is where you write the rule to get the output. So this is where you write what happens inside the machine. So for this example, let's say you want to find f of 2. What happens? So if you want to find f of 2, you are just going to multiply 2 to it and then add 5 to it, thus giving us 9. So our output is 9. So you can see from this example that when your x is 2, your y is 9. Now it's not necessary that the name of the function has to be f of x all the time. It could be anything. For example, you can represent the position of a particle by the function. Let me name it x of t. So let's say this function has this thing, t cubed minus 4t squared plus 3t minus 2. So this is the position of a particle and it's represented by this function x of t, where t is the time. So if you want to find the particle's position at t equals to 2, you just need to substitute x equals to 2 into the equation. So you can write it like this: x of 2 equals to 2 to the power of 3 minus 4 times 2 to the power of 2 plus 3 times 2 minus 2, whatever you get. Okay, so this is how you can use any function, and it's not necessary that it has to be f of x all the time. Now, there is an important limitation about functions that we need to know. Functions are not allowed to have what we call one-to-many relationships. So one input is only allowed to have one output. For example, if you have this function y equals to square root of x, if your input is 4, let me substitute x equals to 4. So if your x is 4, this is going to give you two values of x, plus and minus 2. Now, therefore, this is not a function because your x has two values. Relationships like this exist. They do exist, of course, because that's how I could calculate it, but you are not allowed to call this a function. Now, y equals to 3x plus 1 is a function because no matter what your input is, it will always give you one output. So to summarize, if your x has only one y, that means this is a function. If your x has two y's, y1 and y2, then this is not a function. But if x1 has this output y, but x2 also has this output y, it can still be a function because 1x has only one output. It doesn't have two outputs. So as long as it satisfies the condition, this is a function. Now, how do you find out if something is a function? By just looking at the graph. Let me show you an example of a graph. Let's say I have something like this. Okay, and then I have something like this. So I have two graphs over here. How do you know if these graphs are functions or not? Now there is a test for it, which is called the vertical line test. So for this test, what you need to do is just draw a vertical line at any point in the graph and see at what point, how many points does it cross the graph. You can see from this example that this is crossing the graph at only 1 point, so that means this is a function because your 1x has only 1y. Therefore, this is a function. Now, what about this graph? I can draw any random points, and you can see that this line is crossing the graph at two different points. That means your x has two values of y, two outputs. That means this is not a function. So if you draw a vertical line and it crosses your graph at more than 1 point, that means this is not a function. Okay, so that will be all for today. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.